during this final push to the polls in the U.S., we just want to get some analysis from Republicans and Democrats. You know, what will make the difference between victory and defeat tomorrow? Standing by in Washington is Lenny McAllister. He's a Republican strategist, a radio host, and contributor at Politics 365. And joining me from our studio in New York is Bernard Whitman, a Democratic He worked as a pollster for Bill Clinton, and he is the author of 52 Reasons to Vote for Obama. Welcome to you both, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning. Lenny, I want to start with you. Where is it most important for Mitt Romney to get that vote out?
Mitt Romney has to win the eastern coast and at least 2 Midwestern states. He needs to make sure that Florida goes from blue to red. He needs to make sure that Virginia and North Carolina go back to red. And then from there, he has to get 2 out of 3, maybe Iowa and Ohio, maybe Ohio and Michigan. But either way it goes, he has to get that eastern seaboard at least 2 Midwestern states. If he can do that, he'll have enough math to be the next president of the United States in January.
And we know that Barack Obama also wanting votes in those states he just mentioned. Let me ask Bernard, what place is most important, first off, for Obama to get out the vote?
Well, I think he's got to get out his supporters all across the country to make sure that he wins not only the Electoral College, which I'm confident of that, but also the popular vote. I think ultimately it comes down to one state, and that is Ohio. The reason for that, Mitt Romney really has but one path to electoral victory. It goes through Ohio. There's no chance he's going to take Michigan. I doubt he's going to take Wisconsin. I will give Lenny the fact that he will likely take Florida. Virginia now is back in play. I think the president ultimately will wind up with around 290 electoral votes. But if Mitt Romney does not prevail in Ohio, and I don't believe he will not be the next president of the United States.
Lenny, you know, as members of the media, we always say it's important to get the vote out, but perhaps more so when it's a neck-and-neck race. Has the Republican Party changed any tactics and how it gets the vote out this time around?
Well, there's a cynical answer to that, which would be voter suppression, and you hear a lot of that from minorities, you hear a lot of that from Democrats, and I would caution my fellow Republicans not to go down that path. Instead, I think the better path to go down is the right party conservative momentum that has been around since 2009. You saw it in the New Jersey and Virginia governor's races in 2009. You saw it with the midterm elections. 2012 is the first time that that movement has a chance to vote on the presidency, and they have to capitalize on that 100%, not just in early voting, but they have to do it tomorrow.
And what about for the Democrats, that message of getting the vote out, Bernard? How has that changed in your party?
Well, this is going to absolutely be a turnout election with the vote tied at 49-49. Whoever gets out their vote and mobilizes their supporters to come to the polls is going to win. The difference, though, is that the Obama campaign is a data-driven operation. They have been building this machine for 18 months. They have tracked all their likely supporters, all their base, and they're going to use technology to bring those people to the polls. They have an elaborate network, a huge ground game. They're going to count on big union support in key states like Ohio, like Michigan, like Wisconsin. And I think ultimately the combination of a fierce ground game and a data-driven operation that tracks voters is going to bring out our supporters and lead us to victory. And if you look at the late-breaking folks, those 9% who are undecided or still soft supporters, they overwhelmingly favor the president. Favorability is 46-29. Romney is upside down with late-breaking voters, about 22-46. That does not sound good for Mitt Romney.
What do you say to that, Lenny?
Well, no, at the same time, though, if you look at the independent voters, you see that Governor Romney has a pretty significant lead amongst those because they're looking at the past 4 years and they realize that it can't look the same moving forward from here. So therefore, those independent voters are leaning towards Romney, and those folks need to stick around. And if Republicans are going to win tomorrow, they need those folks to come out to the polls, vote for Governor Romney, and hope that Republicans can hang on to the House of Representatives and start making change in Washington moving forward.
Lenny, I just want to stick with you for a moment because I have to touch on Hurricane Sandy. We've been looking at the effects of that and how difficult it is in New York, in New Jersey, and those states that are hard hit. How could that affect voter turnout, and what does it mean for the Republicans?
Probably not much because you're looking at New York State and New Jersey. Those are traditionally blue states. But if you look at North Carolina and Virginia, those are 2 swing states that were also hit by the storm. The western parts of the states were hit by blizzards. The eastern part of the states were hit by the surge from Superstorm Sandy. We need to make make sure as Republicans that people are coming out to the polls and able to vote tomorrow to make sure that those states that had not been traditionally Democratic states, had not been for decades, go back to being red states. Those are two significant states that President Obama won in 2008 that Governor Romney cannot afford to give up this year.
And Bernard, maybe that whole Hurricane Sandy thing isn't just about the states it's in, not just New York, not just New Jersey. I'm wondering if Americans have sort of given the Democrats a bump because of Hurricane Sandy and the way the president tackled that disaster.
Well, the latest poll shows that the vast majority of Americans, in fact, do approve of how the president's handled the storm. I think he showed real leadership. I think he showed a very appropriate bipartisanship, standing with Chris Christie and other governors and mayors all across the country. And I think ultimately that act of presidential leadership coming together, bipartisanship, is probably worth a point or two in the president's favor. I think in terms of depressed turnout here in New York and New Jersey, it will be down. There's a solid Democratic states. We don't have to worry about that so much. But again, that means we've got to put out the popular vote in other areas of the country where the president is expected to do strongly. And I think that it shows that Americans, in the face of tragedy, want communities to come together, and saw in the president an ability to come together and work with others in the appropriate way to get America back on its feet.
Before I let you both go, I just want to ask you off the cuff, what is the most creative thing you have seen done in your respective camps to get the vote out? And I mean, we've heard about people being driven to polls, you know, given donuts, all that kind of stuff. Lenny, what about for you?
I think the most creative thing has not been something over the past couple of weeks. It's been something over the past 4 years, and it's been that new conservative wave, that new conservative movement with the bus tours around the country, the Tea Party movement, etc., finally getting conservatives fired up, more educated, and driving them not only through the primary process, through the general election as well, to make sure that people are remembering that it's not about the last 7 days with Superstorm Sandy, but it's about the past 4 years.
Bernard, you would like people to think it was about the last 7 days. What's the most creative thing you've seen to get the vote out?
Well, actually, I think the president has been running on his record, and I think it's a record that shows that America is on the road to recovery. We wouldn't want to change that midstream. But I think in terms of creative get out the vote is both amassing a huge database of our prospects in our key base that's going to turn them out, as well as focusing on the early voting, the vote by mail, and getting individuals to begin casting their votes as early as the beginning of October, monitoring that. And a lot of signs indicate that Obama was ahead in early voting. I think ultimately this may help greatly, but one of the things we may not know the outcome in Ohio until 10 days later, because there's up to 200,000 ballots that from absentee voting that may not be counted for 10 days. So we may have an awfully long night and a week ahead wondering who won Ohio and potentially who won the presidency.
Oh, say it ain't so, Bernard. Thank you both, though. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you so much.
All right. Lenny McAllister in Washington, Bernard Whitman joining me live from New York.